way. And so I think we're just about done with all the various alerts here. But and this couple, this our client, whom I'll call John, um, grew up in World War II. He was young, and his family were very poor. And so when he married, his wife's name, I'll call her Gladys. Well, during their marriage, he was a very generous man, and gift giving was a very important thing to him, to be able to give gifts, especially to family members, and recognizing all of the holidays, everybody's birthday, Mother's Day, Father's Day, gift giving and cards and celebration was very important to this man. It's a part of who he is. And his wife Gladys, she of course really supports this. Now they're at a point with his dementia where he's been diagnosed, but like many people who are experiencing dementia, he's not able to perceive, to comprehend that he's experiencing changes in his skill set. And what we call that is anosognosia. Now, I don't hear it diagnosed very often, but if you're writing a care plan for a person who's experiencing dementia, it's really important to know whether or not the person who's losing skills can comprehend what is happening to their cognitive abilities. If I cannot comprehend that I'm losing skills, that I'm becoming more forgetful, or that I am less able to manage my attention skills, or that I am less able to exercise rational thinking skills, then I will be constantly putting myself at risk, myself and everybody around me. And I'll be doing things like getting out of the car when I'm sitting at the pharmacy window instead of staying in the car, getting out of a car at a stoplight even. So this happens. And with this particular gentleman, he was also unable to perceive that he was losing skills, that he wasn't remembering everything that had been done, and he was not exercising good judgment. He was not perceiving risk. And so as Christmas approached and all that daytime television programming and all the commercials, everything is pointing us to the holiday season. That began to take over his consciousness. And so he became fixated. Um, I guess, you know, what I'll do, Tara, is um, shall I tell you what we did or shall I tell you why we did what we did? Where shall I go first?
I
I,
would say,
it,
oh,
if I briefly introduce the basis of our decision making in creating his care plan, I'll give you just a um, really simple introduction to the Dawn method. So let me share here. Um, okay, so you should be looking at what I call the Dawn flower. And what this is a feedback loop model. So the Dawn flower represents the 7 tools of the Dawn method, which is the emotional needs that are created when we begin to lose cognitive skills. Essentially, what I have here is Abraham Maslow minus the pyramid with a feedback loop instead. And so first we address our human needs, our emotional needs to feel secure. So if I cannot feel secure, if I don't feel safe, you won't be able to succeed at keeping me comfortable, happy, with a sense of well-being for very long. We have to feel secure before we can feel happy or relaxed or peaceful. And of course, if I don't feel secure, my stress reactions are going to come into play. And I will either be reacting with fear or it's going to be fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Whatever my personality is, I'm going to have a natural stress reaction. And that, of course, holds true with dementia. Now, when somebody is experiencing dementia, And what I did when I first became involved with people who were experiencing dementia was put aside my career. I was an elder law attorney and spend about 5 years, primarily all of my waking hours, with people who were experiencing dementia and living at home. And this was only possible because I was in a very small town in a rural part of America, Moscow, Idaho. Very diverse population, but what I discovered, I became fascinated with what's going on. Because when we look at dementia from a medical perspective, it looks completely incomprehensible. It looks like people are becoming crazy, and there's nothing we can do except lock them up so that they don't harm themselves or others, or medicate them so that they don't act out their very uncomfortable emotional situations. So, what I found when working with people was that there are very specific skills kept and skills lost if you're looking at dementia from the perspective of function rather than medicine. And so, what is happening here with this gentleman, when I begin to think about, okay, how can I solve this problem? How can I keep John and Gladys safe at home through the holiday season, even though John is absolutely obsessed with giving gifts? And at the same time, John does not have the rational thinking skills to properly make purchases and buy gifts that are appropriate and within budget. So what I would see, or what the pattern functionally when we're talking about dementia, is the loss of rational thinking skills, but we do keep all of our intuitive thinking skills. Intuitive thinking skills includes our stress reactions, our fight flight reactions. It includes our emotional needs. My intuitive thinking skills is the basis of where all of my emotions are. That's where our personality resides. This is who we are at essence. At the same time that I'm losing rational thinking skills, I'm also losing memory skills. It's really important to understand that we're talking about the loss of memory skills, not the loss of memories alone. That's why it doesn't help to try to jog my memory. And that's why you can't lead me to remember in a better manner or more successfully when I'm experiencing dementia. What we forget, what we do not understand, is that the person who is losing memory skills is losing the ability to receive information from the past and to using that information to accurately interpret the present. The thing we do not lose is the ability to experience the present. And so generally, I refer to this as the remembering self that is lost and the experiential self that is retained. And boy, we can sure see John's experiential self, can't we? He's looking at daytime programming or television programming and receiving all of this stimuli, all of these advertisements about the holidays and about gift giving. And he's experiencing that 100%, but without his memory skills, like several of you pointed out, he could rewrap the same gift every day and never recall that he'd already done it the day before. That's because he's fully experiential, living in the present, unable to receive or make use of information from the past. So his sense of reality is becoming quite warped or inaccurate. The other thing that occurs is we lose 3 out of 5 of our attention skills, and we keep 2 of them. Now, this is problematic because what happens is my attention can be grabbed by things you wish I wouldn't pay attention to. And if you really want me to keep focused and pay attention to something very important, I will be easily distracted. In terms of the different types of attention skills, we have intensity attention skills. There's 3 of those. And then we have 2 attention skills that reflect selectivity. And with dementia, what I saw with my clients when I spent time with people was that people lost the ability to direct their attention, to redirect their attention, and to maintain their attention. But we still retain 2 out of 5 of our attention skills, and that gives us the ability to make use of the mindlessness tools. And so when I'm teaching the Dawn method and I have more than 5 minutes, I use this model. The rational thinking goes, the remembering self goes, and our ability to be mindful, which means our ability to direct our attention purposefully. That goes. What does not go is all of the skills of intuitive thinking, which includes my ability to feel emotions, to receive and enjoy sensory stimuli that is beautiful to me, as well as that is not, to perceive emotions in my companions through reading nonverbal communication, even though I'm losing my ability to use verbal communication and to understand the spoken word language. And I am not losing the tools of mindfulness or of mindlessness. These are really critically important if what you're doing when you're writing your care plan is trying to maximize a person's ability to function. And these two tools, the tools of mindlessness, this comes from Ellen Langer's work, are automatic thinking scripts and muscle memory. So if we go back now to the Dawn tools, whenever I start working with a family or with an individual who's living alone with dementia, right away I'm thinking about their emotional needs, because it doesn't matter how much I know I can improve their life, lower risk, and create a safer home and a safer existence for them. If they don't understand, if they're losing rational thinking, then I'm going to have to work with their emotional reactions. And this isn't just strictly about dementia, this is us as human beings. If we are emotionally comfortable, if we feel safe and we feel comfortable, not at risk, then rational thinking skills and memory skills are easier for us to access. So if I'm experiencing the gradual loss of skills to dementia, the best thing my family can do, my companions can do, the best thing my care manager can do for me is figure out how to keep me the most emotionally comfortable possible. So to me, if I'm losing rational thinking skills and memory skills, I will be losing the ability to manage my own moods. And what that means by converse is that if I can't manage my moods, whatever moods my companions bring to me, I'm stuck with. Now, at the same time, I'm keeping those intuitive thinking skills. So whatever expression I read on your face or from your intonation or from your body language, I will take it at face value and I'm going to take it personally. If you look worried, I should be worried. If you look guilty, I should feel guilty. If you look bothered, frustrated, irritated, you're probably going to get the very same thing back from me. And the type of reaction you get from me in response to your nonverbal communication, whether you're conscious of it or not, is going to be based upon my personality and my earlier life experiences. So mood management becomes the critical moment by moment constant thing we do on behalf of those of us who are losing rational thinking skills and memory skills to dementia. We do that because we're doing it anyways. We need to do it consciously so that we are consciously bringing positive moods to our loved ones when they're experiencing these losses. Now, if I'm losing rational thinking and memory skills, absolutely, I am forced to begin living with more and more confusion. So my confusion is mounting daily. I'm becoming ever less able to perceive reality accurately. So the best thing you can do for me is help me learn that even though I don't know what's going on, I'm with somebody that does, and therefore I'm safe. Difficult thing to teach, but we can teach that. Security and care, somehow you have to be, if you are my companion, either my family member or a caregiver, you have to work with me in a way that I come to trust that when I try to do things with you, whether it's empty the dishwasher or take a shower, that I can trust you. I am safe failing at tasks with you and accomplishing tasks with you. So once you've dealt with those three areas, then you can bring well-being into my life. You can give me social success in conversations if you learn a few tricks about how to do that for a person who doesn't have the ability to retain information. But here, for the, because we don't have that much time, with John, first of all, I'm thinking about Gladys and John. John's angry. Why? Why is he angry? How can I deal with that anger? I think John's sense of value is being impacted here. He is a person who, by nature, by life experience and personality, believes and deeply desires to give gifts. This is a very important thing for him. It is a part of who he is. Now, if we take that away from him, if we say, no, John, you can't, you just can't, because you're not able to, and we start to explain to him why he cannot, bring home all of the styrofoam coolers or bring home herbal tea for pregnant mothers from the grocery store. If we start trying to explain to him why, what we're doing is we're asking him to use rational thinking skills to figure out and follow reasoning. And yet at the same time, we know he is losing those skills, and he's demonstrating to us that he's lost his rational thinking skills. So we're asking him to do something he can't do. And guess what? Yep, he's getting angry. Now, the other thing that I think is really impacted here, these outer petals are well-being. I think his sense of control is really being undermined. Now, a sense of control, my ability to feel that I have control, decision-making power over what is done to my body and what is incorporated, what I must face during the day, my interactions. If you take away my autonomy, I lose dignity. And dignity is all about decisions. We spend a lifetime becoming autonomous. We spend a lifetime, hopefully, protecting our dignity. And then when we begin to lose skills to dementia, and especially if we cannot comprehend that that's what's happening, then our sense of control is deeply impacted. And yes, of course, we become angry. So if I really want to solve the problems here, I have to think about what John can and cannot do. And I have to think about the family's well-being. Him and Gladys are living there together. And I have to think about how I can work with his skills. So this is the Dawn method is all about strength-based dementia care. It's recognizing what skills we keep, which ones we lose, and how we can work with the person's skills so that we meet their emotional needs. Because if you meet my emotional needs, my behaviors won't be a problem. And actually, if you really, when I teach the experiential model, which is a much more accurate model to use for dementia than a medical model, what we're really talking about is supporting the person's personhood, being respectful of each other, rather than tagging people with diagnoses and then treating them differently. So what did we do with John? Here's how it played out. And I'll put this screen up for you because I use this as a teaching tool often. But I wanted to support his sense of self, and I knew that the anger was coming from a loss of sense of value. He felt that he had nothing to offer and he was being prevented from giving gifts. And that he felt like his sense of he was not able to be autonomous and his dignity was being impacted. And so what I wanted to do was bring him back to a comfortable and joyful experience of the holiday season, and for him to enjoy being able to give gifts to those he loved, to express his love. So the first thing we did was sit down with Gladys and figure out how to get rid of those TV ads. And we used two different things. We turned off she ended their subscription to cable and to DirecTV. No more daily programming, because if I am experiencing changes in my attention skills, if I'm becoming less able to manage my attention, I won't be able to handle living with commercials. If you ever yourself just sit down and look at an hour of daily programming and look at it from the perspective of sensory stimuli, you'll see that it is designed to constantly manipulate your attention. So that does not work well with dementia. And what we did was get rid of the daytime TV, get rid of channels and commercials. Gladys bought a subscription to YouTube so that they would have unlimited streaming with no commercials. And she began to manage the interior environment of their home. And she used what John loved. What he thought was beautiful was birds. Videos, and there's a whole bunch of them, and they're called videos for cats, videos for dogs. It's birds and it's squirrels and it's chipmunks. Fabulous for John. And that became daily programming. Then we sat down with Gladys and we talked about what was the programming that he really enjoyed. And it turned out that Gunsmoke was one of his favorite shows. And so we bought a DVD player and a DVD of all of the old episodes of Gunsmoke. And whenever Gladys needed to do something that would give John a sense of peace and familiarity, she put on an episode of Gunsmoke. That's what we did to start with. Now, and this is because to me, I want to preserve family. I want to preserve home. I love aging in place. And I want John comfortable. If John's comfortable, Gladys is comfortable. So that's where we began. Now I'm recognizing these changes in his skills, and I know that he cannot manage his attention. I know that he needs to go through the exercise of purchasing gifts. All right, so Judy is case manager and the caregiver, Heike. We managed his ability to go purchase gifts. He still had enough of his memory skills that he knew the difference between the neighbor's apartment and the local mall. He still knew that he needed to go to the mall to get gifts. So I knew we had to do it. All right, manage the interaction. What do you do? Down at the local mall, at one end is the May Company. At the other end is Nordstrom. In between, there's about 100 stores. Now, I went and scoped it out, and the thing was, at the May Company, right next to the point where the May Company was the building at the end of the mall, was a single door. And that door, you came in past a beauty salon. That beauty salon was closed until 11 a.m. every day. The May Company opened at 9. Now, many of the other storefronts along that mall didn't open till 10 or 11 as well. And across front, next on the other side of the May Company was a teen clothing store for young women. Perfect. Because if he sees teen clothing, it's not as likely to grab his attention. If the doors are shut and those metal guards are down in front of the salon, he's not as likely to be able to start grabbing bottles of shampoo and demanding to purchase them. Next stop for me is the manager of the May Company. And I say, hey, we've got this problem. We have a client, he wants to buy presents. We want to be able to give him the opportunity to purchase presents. If we bring him in, could you help us? Could we have one of your staff members who'd be our guide? That would make him feel really special. And of course, the May Company manager was thrilled, absolutely glad to take part, because his mom had dementia. So what we did was we show up at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I think it was probably a Tuesday. It was like the least busy shopping day there was. And I'm driving the car with John. Gladys is at home, getting a little bit of time off. Heike's in the store with our sales clerk. And the whole way over, of course, I'm talking it up with John. We are going Christmas shopping. Oh my goodness. And you know what? The manager of the May Company is going to be there, and you are going to get a guided tour. He was thrilled. He felt really special, and he felt really good because I'm taking him seriously. I am being respectful of who he is and what he would like to do and what he thinks is important, as I should be. And so he and I walk in that door, the empty mall with all those doors shut, nothing's open but the brightly lit display of May Company. Heike's there with the sales girl, and we guide him. Now, right there at the entrance is women's clothing and men's clothing. And they've got all the prettiest stuff out, brightly colored scarves for women, beautiful sweaters, winter sweaters for men. And we took him from one brightly lit, brightly colored item to the next. We soon had 18 presents because that was how many family members he would like to purchase for. And we piled everything in his arms. And then we went to the counter. And then for him, that was the purchasing. He didn't need at that point to pull out a Visa card. He just needed to go through the motions. And so we ended up with 18 presents. Now, some of those presents weren't appropriate. Gladys came back later, made the purchases, and made sure the presents were appropriate. That worked because he was losing his memory skills, so he didn't actually recall exactly what it was that he was purchasing or he had purchased or had taken to the counter. We take him back, then I get him back in the car, I take him for hot chocolate, we go look at some Christmas lights in town. I'm playing Christmas music on the car radio. John had a fabulous time. Now we go home. And we're talking about wrapping presents, and every one of you, you're right, yes, yeah, we wrapped one present a day for the entire holiday season. And each time we wrapped a present, we kept in mind that John's attention skills are fading. He's easily distracted, he can't maintain his attention. And so what we would do is we set up routine, and Joseph, I think you mentioned this, routine is critically important if I'm living without memory skills and rational thinking skills and my attention skills are impaired. So working with a person's skills and doing what they can do, that meant that what we're going to do is we're going to follow a routine. And so the dining room became Christmas present central. We didn't clean it up for the entire holiday season. We didn't need to end on Christmas Day. We didn't need to actually wrap a different present every day. We just needed to go through the experience of gift giving. And, you know, this is really, I think I've used up all our time. I better stop talking. I always go long. But here's the deal. Let's just pay attention to our skills. All of us have cognitive skills. That's pretty basic. You've got 2 sets of thinking skills. We've got 5 different types of attention skills. And we have the ability to live in the past, the present, and the future. The past, we get to live there via memory skills. The future, we get to live there via rational thinking skills. The present, we're all here. And we can enjoy it if we dial in with our intuitive thinking skills and enjoy what's here in the present. All the good stuff's here. Companionship, beauty, it's all in the present. People who are experiencing dementia don't lose that. All of the suffering and all of the problems that we run into, the source of our stress is when you have 2 people, one of them is going through skill loss. Skills they've been using their whole life are evaporating. Whether it's conscious or not, it is painful. It's embarrassing, it's frustrating, it's debilitating, and eventually you're going to die of it. But my companions are not losing these skills. If you're the companion of somebody who's experiencing dementia, use your rational thinking skills on their behalf. Don't ask them to understand why, or to understand that something's important, or to hold information in their mind and compare it, to understand why your version of reality is more accurate than theirs. Asking them to use skills they don't have. So we don't do that. Let's just be kind to each other. And I'll use all of my skills to the best of my ability. All of my companions use their skills to the best of their ability, and we accommodate each other. And that's what we should be doing with dementia care. That's what writing a care plan for somebody who's experiencing dementia, that's what it's about. Understand what they can do, what they can't do, and support it. And if you give me dignity and autonomy, I will be giving you my best companionship. If you constantly embarrass me and demand that I use skills I don't have anymore, I'm not going to be able to understand that. You're going to get my worst companionship behavior. So I think okay, sorry, Sarah. I'm
No,
not used to talking for so little time, but
this is perfect. And if anyone needs to hop off, go ahead and feel free. But I don't want to cut you
yeah.
off because I love the topic, and I can see that everyone on the call is very interested. So if anyone has any questions, we can open it up for that very quickly. I know that every time I hear you speak, I get very emotional, just my own grandmother and the mistakes that we made dealing with her. And I wish I could go back and do it all over again with the information that you gave us, but hopefully we can share with more people and make the future more comfortable and create more family memories for folks. So
yeah.
we'll open it up if anyone has any questions, comments.
I don't have a question, but I do want to point out, and sorry to lean forward into the camera, but I do want to point out, I just got this audiology today, and this is such a hot topic and has been for a long time within audiology because, I mean, our cognitive skills, number one, can be easily confused for hearing loss, or hearing loss can be confused as cognitive skills. And number two, just that there's clearly a correlation and a connection between how our ability to communicate and interact with others and how we are able to remain cognitively intact. So for any of you that work with families that have that have family members that have dementia, it is so important that they are connected with an audiologist if they haven't. Hopefully that's not something that has to be addressed, but if it is, it's so important. And the even the little bit of questioning that I've done of people that have seen neurologists and different things, I don't know how, but they're not asking the question. So I hope I can spread the word to say that it is so important to keep these people hearing. One of the devices that I work with a lot, and I'm the most experienced provider of it in the state, is called Lyric. And it's not right for everyone. It's an extended wear hearing aid, but for this population, if it is right, it's unbelievably life-changing because it stays in the ear all the time. And so if somebody can wear it, they usually can't feel it. And that way they can't lose it, take it out, misplace it. The family's buying hearing aid after hearing aid after hearing aid. It's just good money after bad. It's a subscription model. I won't claim that it's inexpensive, but I've seen families that feel like they don't have the money come up with the money because they're like, it just means the person that I love can like be with us again, as opposed to not. And it just makes a huge difference. So if you are looking for a provider, you can find, like, if there's one kind of nearby. I mean, people will drive hours to be able to have like a device replaced every couple of months. And it's such a game changer for this population if it works for them. So
Meryl, that's an uh, incredibly valuable tool. Can you, after the meeting, could you please send me that, a link to Lyric so
yeah,
that,
it's called, I mean, if you look up Lyric hearing aid, it's made by Phonak, but I'm
oh,
happy
okay.
to
Yeah,
put it. I don't know if I have your email, but I'm happy to like send you a link on here.
yeah,
Um,
it's Judy at thedawnmethod.com.
Judy at thedawnmethod.com.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll send an
and
email right now.
because what you brought up, Meryl, it is absolutely such a problem because if I'm losing the ability to rational thinking skills, key things that really frustrate our companions, we lose the ability to see cause and effect, we lose the ability to sequence, and we lose the ability to prioritize ideas and actions, meaning we can't recognize importance. But people do tend to understand that this hearing aid is expensive and it's really hard to replace. So I better hide it. I better put it somewhere really safe. And that's
And
it. They're
then,
gone. Yeah.
well, and people that have always worn hearing aids, like you say, the routine thing, they have no
Yeah.
problem
No
continuing,
problem.
even if, eventually they'll get to the point that they forget and they kind of
Yeah.
go the other way, but
Yeah.
they will continue for pretty
Yeah.
far into the disease before
Yeah.
they forget and start to not wear them or start to take them off. But if it's part of their routine, they're great. But if it's not, it is a nightmare. It really is. And I
Nightmare.
totally get it for
Yeah.
families. It's so hard. They're so expensive, but it's so important. And then the people that I see that do use this device, if they can, called again Lyric, like song
Hmm.
lyrics, their family immediately can tell if they need new devices. I mean, they can see the difference in them
They
right
see it.
away.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
it's
right.
incredible. So I'm
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah. I'd
Judy at
like
the
to,
dawnmethod.com. Got it.
yeah, I'd like to get, yeah, write me because I'd like to stay in touch with you
Yeah,
regarding this. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe that's a future presentation. We'll have the two of you present something.
Yeah, yeah,
I have a question,
yeah.
if it's okay. How much of the practices that you just mentioned, how much do they have to do with a person's personality, the person who has dementia's personality? I know you mentioned that a little bit earlier. So I lost my mother about a year, just less than a year ago, of dementia. And she, every time I was dealing with her, because she lived with my sister and she would come over and visit, I just kept trying to put myself in her place, how confused she must be, how, so I never had any problems with her. She was always very kind, she was like a child. She became more childlike. I would tuck her into bed, tell her how much I love her. She would always thank me. And so now my ex-husband, who's an ex-husband for a reason, and I don't mean to disparage him, but he has the narcissistic personality.
Yeah.
And his mother also had a narcissistic personality. She was very, very feisty. So there is constant fighting, stress, yelling, screaming, all times of the day at their house. So my daughter has to split her time between both of us. And so she's still going to school and she has a hard time doing homework sometimes because grandma's constantly, interrupting and things. So she kind of mediates things sometimes. She's a 17-year-old who's more mature than her father, but
She's parenting.
Yeah, she's parenting. Exactly. Yeah. So I always try to, share skills with her that might be helpful. And one of the biggest things that I always say is you're arguing with a person that doesn't have any rational thinking skills right now.
Yeah.
Only because of my lack of knowledge, like you, I mean, so much, but for lack of a better way of explaining it. So I try to explain this to her. You're arguing with someone who doesn't understand, who's not capable of doing what you're asking them to do.
Right.
So my daughter is really good about working that. So, I mean, what do you do in a situation like that where a father is narcissistic and, he's constantly telling the mother, what are you thinking? Why did you do that? Just causing the stress. But he can't, it's almost like he can't help it. I don't, I don't know. It's just in his personality. Anything, any suggestions?
See, I think I'm actually more versed with sociopaths than narcissists. But, the thing to keep in mind about the narcissist is that if I'm a narcissist, if I'm narcissistic, if I have that, and that's a diagnosis, and it's one of the cluster B personality disorders, right? Sociopaths, narcissists, somebody else have more background here. Borderline personality disorder, and the one I always forget, but it's in the DSM-5, and it's easy to look up. Just look up cluster B. But if I'm a narcissist, everybody else in the world is playing a bit part, is a walk-on actor in my play.
Exactly.
Now, don't expect me ever to stop being the prima donna, because I can't even comprehend not being the center of the universe. So I'm not able to take myself from central and see other human beings as equal, because they're just bit part actors, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
That's your narcissist. A sociopath is different, of course, because that's the person who is born without a conscience. And it happens that the average is about 1 in 27 is the incidence across all cultures. 1 in 27 of us is born without a conscience. Now, that person, you just simply can't ask them to care because they don't have that capacity. You can't ask them to be reasonable, not because they lack reasoning skills. And actually, your narcissist has a full set of rational thinking skills. That it's that the narcissist can't see that they are not central, whereas a sociopath simply doesn't have the ability to extend. If it's bad for me, it would be bad for you. So now the person who's experiencing dementia, is specifically losing those skills. But I would say to your daughter, you're just a bit actor here, and those two are fighting because they're both prima donnas and neither one of them are able to perceive the difference here. Step aside out of the spotlight. But, originally you said personality. Yeah, it affects us. If you're talking about the condition of dementia, which we need to keep in mind is not a disease, it can result from any number of diseases, life events, and lifestyle choices. We'll never cure it. We will always have it. We always have had it. It's more predominant now. It's much more prevalent now because we eat a processed diet and because we are sedentary and because as a result of those two choices, we have a lot more diseases that we're experiencing, heart disease, Parkinson's, etc. But if you're looking at dementia from a medical perspective, this condition, then you have to take, how it's going to play out will be affected by the type of dementia you are experiencing. Alzheimer's, you're probably going to lose your memory skills before your rational thinking skills. Cardiovascular disease-induced dementia, you're probably going to lose your rational thinking skills before your memory skills. And when you lose memory skills, it's going to be random, which will make it really frustrating for your companions. So the type of dementia, then we've got to think about what part of the brain it's affecting. In my brain, which part? And that brings into whether or not I'm able to perceive that I'm experiencing changes to my skills. But that's not all. We also have to take into account a person's personality. And yet that's not all. The thing that really makes a difference is previous life experiences. And the reason that makes a huge difference is because my previous life experiences taught me where I was safe and where I am not. And now that I'm losing rational thinking skills, I'm really not able to assess reality, my situation around me in the present, and see that I am safe or see that I'm not safe. So it's really complicated, isn't it? That's why it took me. And I think I've worked. I've worked every job in the world, but I worked in a hearing aid center for a year and a half, and it was fabulous. I learned a whole lot about hearing. I worked with sheep once and learned more about dementia than I've ever learned in a classroom. And but I worked as a psychosocial skills trainer, which is why I have a little bit of experience with cluster B personalities. I worked in a lockdown, but if we look at our past life experiences, that's going to shape how we act. It doesn't matter whether we are diagnosed with dementia or experiencing this gradual loss of skills or sudden loss of skills that can happen. The only way you can actually make sense out of it and bring it back under control is if you start looking at dementia, that condition, from the perspective of how it changes the way I function. How can I function? How can I interact? It's based on my skills. And so it doesn't matter if I'm narcissistic or experiencing dementia, you go back and you look at my skill set to see how I react. And I think that was good advice to your daughter. Yeah, they're not being very rational. Why not? It's because fight or flight has been activated. Because if I think I'm the prima donna and that person over there thinks they are, fight or flight, it's fight time and we're going to fight. So you're going to get bad behavior and it's going to be unpleasant to be around us. But we have these skills. And if we just start thinking about our interactions in terms of them, like, that person doesn't feel safe right now. They're not going to be using a lot of rational thinking or memory skills, or this person feels safe, so let's see if we can add something beautiful to their life. I'm going to give them a little dose of social success, or I'm going to give them an opportunity to make choices and make decisions and see if that helps them feel better today. So sorry, I'll just keep rambling. I'm not very good at staying on topic.
Well, I did. If anybody else has any other questions, I do have one quick one.
Sure.
Just to close things out. So with the holidays coming up and with family members coming over and the lights flashing and the music playing and the kids screaming and the wrapping paper flying, how can we make our family members comfortable and create the proper mood for them without them getting caught up in the wildness of the holidays?
If you're dealing with grandkids, it's going to be hard. because it's really hard to have a child use cognitive skills and emotional skills they have not yet developed. So there is that stress between accommodating the person who's losing skills and accommodating the person who hasn't yet built a lot of skills. On the other hand, whenever you have somebody experiencing dementia, in a family setting, anywhere, they need a guide, they need a coach. Designate one person to be on duty. You are dad's companion, and give people like a 1 hour. Like it's like, okay, 15-year-old grandson is going to be on duty for an hour. And then the daughter is going to be on duty for an hour. And then son will be on duty for an hour. And just divvy up the time so that that person always has one personal coach to help guide them through conversations so they don't get lost, to redirect their attention when it's been grabbed, to recognize when they need a break from the commotion. And then the other thing I'd say is, if it's, you don't have to have one celebration. Like this works better for birthdays. If it's dad's birthday, have the birthday 9 times and just have separate family groups. Have dad's birthday with, with the daughter and her family. And then the next day, the next week, celebrate dad's birthday with son and his family. And the next week, celebrate it with the aunts and uncle. That you break things down. If I'm lacking memory skills, I can enjoy my birthday multiple times. So, did that help, Tara?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much. Well,
That's what I do. I have a birthday all month long.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us. If you have anything after the fact that you'd like to reach out and speak to Judy about, her email again is judy@thedawnmethod.com, or you can send us a message at NAIPC@ageandplace.org, and we will be sure to get it over to her. So thank you all for joining us today. It was great.
Thank you, Judy. That was fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
good. Well, thank you for having me.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, take care.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah.